In the hotel's quiet piano room in the middle of the night, Jungkook plays a secret song and confesses to Jimin that it was born out of longing. A midnight piano confession in a silent hotel reveals Jungkook's hidden longing for Jimin, unraveling a story of secrets, music, and buried emotions. The first note broke the silence like a confession that had waited too long. Jungkook's fingers trembled over the piano keys before pressing them down again, softer this time, as if the melody itself were afraid to be heard. The quiet piano room of the old hotel was drenched in shadows, lit only by a brass lamp whose yellow light pooled across the polished black surface of the grand piano. Outside, the city slept under a blanket of mist. Inside, the song unfolded slowly, fragile and aching. Jimin stopped in the doorway. He had not meant to come here. The corridor outside had been empty, the carpet swallowing the sound of his footsteps as he wandered the sleepless hotel. But the music had pulled him toward the room like gravity, something warm and sad woven through every note. He leaned lightly against the doorframe, arms crossed, watching. Jungkook didn't notice him at first. The younger man sat hunched over the piano, dark hair falling across his forehead, his shoulders tight with a kind of quiet intensity. His fingers moved with instinct rather than practice, brushing over the keys with the hesitant tenderness of someone touching a wound. The melody wasn't perfect. It faltered in places, breaking and reshaping itself, but the emotion behind it was unmistakable. It carried longing the way the night carried silence, deep and endless. Jimin felt something twist in his chest. He had heard Jungkook play many times before, during rehearsals, during late-night gatherings, during those rare moments when music replaced conversation. But this song was different. This song felt private. Too private. The final note lingered in the air like breath on cold glass. Only then did Jungkook notice him. His head snapped up slightly, eyes widening when he saw Jimin standing there. "Hyung," Jungkook said quietly. Jimin stepped into the room, the wooden floor cool beneath his bare feet. "I didn't know you were here," Jungkook added, his voice low. "I didn't know you played secrets on the piano at 3 in the morning." Jungkook looked down at the keys again. The faint smell of old wood and polished metal filled the room. Somewhere in the building pipes hummed softly, carrying distant water through the sleeping hotel. Jimin moved closer until he stood beside the piano. "Was that something new?" he asked. Jungkook nodded once. "Yeah." The answer was simple, but it carried hesitation. Jimin rested his hand lightly on the edge of the piano, studying Jungkook's face. The younger man's expression had always been difficult to read, part guarded, part vulnerable in ways he rarely showed. Tonight, though, something about him seemed exposed. "You wrote it," Jimin said. Another nod. "But it's not finished." Jimin tilted his head slightly. "Why?" Jungkook's fingers pressed down on a single key without meaning to. The note echoed softly, then faded. "Because," he said after a moment, "I don't know how it ends." Jimin smiled faintly. "That's unusual for you. You always finish things." Jungkook let out a quiet breath. "This one's different." The silence between them deepened. Jimin slid onto the piano bench beside him. The movement made the wood creak softly. "Play it again." Jungkook hesitated. "Hyung, please." The word was gentle, but it carried weight. Jungkook looked at him for a long moment. Then he began again. The melody returned slowly, unfolding in hesitant waves. This time Jimin listened more closely, hearing the way the chords leaned into each other like words struggling to be spoken. There was loneliness in it, but there was also warmth. Jimin felt his chest tighten. "You wrote this recently," he said quietly as the music continued. "Tonight." "Tonight." Jungkook nodded faintly without stopping. The song rose into a fragile crescendo before falling back into softer notes. It sounded like someone walking through memories they weren't sure they should revisit. When the final chord faded, Jungkook's hands remained on the keys. "Why tonight?" Jimin asked. Jungkook didn't answer right away. Outside the tall window, fog drifted across the streetlights like pale ghosts. "Do you remember," Jungkook said slowly, "the night we got lost in Tokyo?" Jimin laughed softly. "That's a dangerous question. We've gotten lost in a lot of places." "The small street with the vending machines." Jimin's smile softened. "Oh." Memory warmed his voice. "Yeah, I remember." They had wandered the quiet city for hours after a concert, too restless to sleep. The streets had been glowing with neon reflections on wet pavement, and they had talked about everything and nothing at once. Dreams, fear, the strange loneliness of crowded places. "You bought 2 cans of coffee," Jungkook continued. "You drank both of them. You said you didn't like the taste." Jimin leaned his elbows on the piano. "I didn't." Jungkook finally looked at him again. "But you drank them anyway." Jimin shrugged. "You seemed nervous." The younger man's expression flickered. "That was the first time I almost told you." "Told me what?" Jungkook's gaze drifted back to the keys. His voice was barely louder than the piano had been. "This song." Jimin blinked. "You almost told me a song." "No," Jungkook said quietly. "I almost told you why it existed." The air between them shifted. Something unspoken moved beneath the surface of the conversation, slow and inevitable like a tide rising. Jimin studied him more carefully now. "You wrote it back then." "No." Jungkook pressed 2 notes together, letting them ring. "I started feeling it back then." The answer hung in the room. Jimin's heart beat a little faster. "What does it mean?" he asked gently. Jungkook exhaled. The confession seemed to gather inside him, like a storm waiting for the right moment to break. "It's about longing," he said finally. The word felt fragile. Jimin didn't move. "Longing for what?" Jungkook's hands left the piano. He folded them together loosely, staring at them like they belonged to someone else. "For something that's always been close," he said slowly. "But never easy to say." The quiet piano room felt smaller suddenly. The lamp's soft glow wrapped around them, isolating the moment from the rest of the world. Jimin's voice dropped. "Jungkook." The younger man looked up. Their eyes met. For a second neither of them spoke. Then Jungkook said something he had carried for years. "I wrote the song because of you." Jimin's breath caught. Not dramatically, not loudly, just a small shift in the rhythm of the room. Jungkook continued before courage could fade. "I didn't know how to say it," he said. "So I wrote it instead." Jimin's heart pounded quietly against his ribs. "What exactly did you write?" he asked. Jungkook turned back to the piano. His fingers hovered above the keys again. "This," he said. The melody returned once more, but this time it sounded fuller, warmer, as if something inside it had finally found permission to exist. Each note carried something unspoken between them. Years of shared nights, unfinished conversations, glances that lingered too long. When the final chord settled into silence, Jungkook spoke without looking up. "I think the ending is supposed to be a confession." Jimin sat very still beside him. "And you just played it." "Yes." The quiet stretched again. But this time it wasn't empty. It felt like the beginning of something that had been waiting patiently in the dark, just like the song itself. Outside, dawn was beginning to soften the edges of the night. Inside the piano room, the melody remained in the air long after the last note had faded, carrying with it the quiet truth Jungkook had finally allowed himself to say aloud. The second night in the hotel did not begin with music. It began with a slammed door. Jimin pushed the piano room door shut behind him harder than he meant to, the sound echoing sharply through the quiet corridor. His chest rose and fell unevenly as he leaned against the wall, staring at the dim hallway lights that buzzed faintly overhead. Inside the room, Jungkook was still sitting at the piano. The last conversation between them had not ended badly, but it had not ended clearly either. After Jungkook confessed that the song was written because of him, neither of them knew where to go from there. They had sat in silence for nearly 10 minutes before Jimin finally stood and left without another word. Now he was back, and he looked anything but calm. Jungkook turned slowly on the piano bench when the door reopened. "Hi, Young." Jimin walked straight toward him, the tension in his shoulders unmistakable. "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" The question hit the room like a sudden storm. Jungkook blinked. "Tell you what?" Jimin laughed once, but there was no humor in it. "That the song was about me." Jungkook frowned slightly, confused. "I just did." "That's not what I meant," Jimin said, packing now, hands running through his hair. "You said you felt this since Tokyo. That was years ago." Jungkook watched him quietly. "Why now?" The younger man hesitated before answering. "Because you finally listened." Jimin stopped packing. "What does that mean?" "You've heard me play before," Jungkook said calmly. "But last night was the first time you actually stayed." The words were soft, but they landed heavily. Jimin stared at him. "That's not fair." "Maybe not." "You could have said something," Jimin pressed, frustration creeping into his voice. "We've talked about everything. Jungkook shook his head slowly. "Not everything." The air in the piano room felt heavier tonight. Rain tapped against the tall window now, quiet but persistent. Jimin's voice lowered. "Why were you afraid?" Jungkook looked down at his hands. Because he had always been afraid. Afraid that saying the truth out loud would change the fragile balance between them. Afraid that Jimin would smile politely and step away forever. "I wasn't afraid of you," Jungkook said. Jimin crossed his arms. "Then what?" Jungkook met his eyes. "I was afraid you'd pretend not to understand." The honesty in his voice made Jimin's chest tighten again. "You think I would do that?" "I didn't know." Jimin looked away toward the rain-streaked window. The hotel outside buzzed faintly with distant elevators and quiet footsteps in the halls. Somewhere a door shut softly. The world continued moving, while the two of them stood frozen in this room. "You always hide things in music," Jimin said after a moment. Jungkook gave a small smile. "You always hear them anyway." "That doesn't mean I understand them." Silence filled the room again. Then Jimin turned back toward him. "Play the song again." Jungkook raised an eyebrow. "Again?" "Yes." "Why?" Jimin stepped closer until he stood beside the piano. "Because I want to know what it's trying to say." Jungkook studied his expression carefully. There was something different in Jimin tonight. Less teasing. More raw honesty. So Jungkook placed his fingers on the keys once more. The melody returned slowly, its familiar sadness drifting through the quiet room like mist. But halfway through the song, Jimin suddenly interrupted. "Stop." Jungkook lifted his hands. "What?" "That part," Jimin said, pointing toward the keys. "Play that again." Jungkook repeated the short phrase. Jimin frowned slightly. "That sounds like hesitation." Jungkook chuckled softly. "It is hesitation." "Why?" Jungkook leaned back on the bench. "Because that's the moment where the person in the song almost speaks." "Almost." But doesn't. Jimin stared at the piano. That's frustrating. It's realistic. Jimin gave him a sharp look. You're saying people just never say it. Sometimes they don't. Why? Because they think it's too late. The words hung heavy between them. Jimin's jaw tightened slightly. You thought it was too late with me. Jungkook didn't answer right away. Then he said quietly, sometimes. The tension snapped. Jimin stepped closer suddenly, grabbing the edge of the piano. That's ridiculous. Jungkook looked up at him. Why? Because you never gave me the chance to answer. The emotion in Jimin's voice was stronger now, almost shaking. Jungkook frowned slightly. Answer what? Jimin exhaled sharply. Your feelings. Jungkook blinked. For a moment, the confident musician disappeared, replaced by someone much younger and uncertain. You mean? Yes, Jimin cut in, his voice suddenly fierce. That. Jungkook stared at him, stunned. The rain outside grew heavier, drumming softly against the glass. You're angry, Jungkook said slowly. Of course I'm angry. Why? Jimin laughed again, shaking his head. Because you've been writing songs about me for years, and just decided to casually confess at 3 in the morning like it's no big deal. Jungkook looked genuinely surprised. It was a big deal. You didn't act like it. I was terrified. Jimin froze. That word changed everything. Terrified, he repeated. Jungkook nodded once. Yeah. The honesty in his eyes made Jimin's anger falter. You never look scared, Jimin said quietly. That's because I'm good at hiding it. The rain softened again outside. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Jimin spoke again, more quietly now. Do you know what the worst part is? Jungkook shook his head. I think I knew. Jungkook's breath caught slightly. You knew. Not exactly, Jimin admitted. But sometimes when you played piano, it felt like you were trying to say something to me. Why didn't you ask? Jimin shrugged weakly. Because I was afraid too. Jungkook leaned forward slightly. Afraid of what? Jimin met his gaze. That I wasn't imagining it. The room fell silent again. Both of them stood there now, the distance between them barely a step. Jungkook spoke carefully. So, you're saying you understood the song? Jimin nodded faintly. I think I did. And? Jimin hesitated. The hesitation was different from before, less fear, more vulnerability. You're not the only one who started feeling something in Tokyo. Jungkook's eyes widened. What? Jimin smiled nervously. You really think you were the only one acting weird that night? Jungkook stared at him. That's why you drank both coffees. Jimin laughed quietly. Exactly. The realization hit Jungkook slowly but powerfully. All this time. Yeah. You never said anything either. Jimin shrugged again. I thought you didn't mean it. Jungkook ran a hand through his hair. That's unbelievable. I could say the same thing about you. They both laughed then, the tension cracking open for the first time that night. But the moment quickly turned serious again. Jungkook looked down at the piano keys. So what happens now? Jimin leaned against the piano beside him. I think, he said slowly, you need to finish the song. Jungkook glanced up. You think that'll solve this? No. Then why? Jimin smiled softly. Because the ending should match the truth. Jungkook considered that. Then he placed his hands back on the keys. The melody began again, stronger this time, less hesitant. The notes moved forward with new confidence, as if the song itself had been waiting for this conversation. Jimin listened quietly beside him. And when the final chord finally arrived, it didn't sound uncertain anymore. It sounded like something finally complete. The third night did not feel peaceful. The finished song lingered in the air of the piano room long after Jungkook had played the last note. But instead of relief, the silence that followed felt heavier than before. Jimin remained leaning against the piano, staring at the keys like they might suddenly reveal answers neither of them had been brave enough to ask. Jungkook exhaled slowly. So that's the ending. Jimin didn't immediately respond. That's not the ending, he said finally. Jungkook glanced up. It is. Jimin shook his head. That's just the confession. The words sat between them like a spark waiting to catch. Jungkook leaned back slightly on the piano bench, studying Jimin's expression. Something restless had appeared in his eyes tonight, something less controlled than usual. And what comes after the confession? Jungkook asked quietly. Jimin gave a small, uneasy smile. That's the dangerous part. The rain outside had stopped, leaving the night strangely clear. City lights flickered far below the tall hotel windows. Jungkook turned slightly toward him. Dangerous. You just admitted something that could ruin everything, Jimin said. Jungkook blinked. Ruin. Jimin laughed softly, but there was tension in it. You really didn't think about that. Jungkook frowned. I thought about it for years. Then you should know what I mean. Jungkook's voice lowered. Say it. Jimin hesitated, then pushed himself away from the piano and began packing slowly across the room. People talk, he said. Jungkook rolled his eyes slightly. People always talk. This isn't the same. Jimin stopped walking and faced him. You know it is. The weight of reality suddenly entered the room, replacing the quiet intimacy of music with something sharper. Jungkook rested his elbows on the piano. You think I don't understand the risk? Jimin crossed his arms. I think you're pretending the risk doesn't exist. Jungkook shook his head. No. Then what are you doing? Jungkook's voice became firm. I'm tired of pretending the feeling doesn't exist. The blunt honesty made Jimin freeze for a moment. You're saying that like it's simple. It is simple. No, Jimin replied sharply, it is. The tension rose again. Jungkook stood from the piano bench. You think I didn't fight this? Jimin's voice softened slightly. I know you did. Then why are you acting like this is easy for me? Jimin rubbed his temples. I'm not saying it's easy for you. I'm saying it's complicated for both of us. Jungkook stepped closer. How? Jimin let out a breath. Because feelings don't exist in a vacuum. What does that mean? It means the world doesn't just disappear because two people confess something in a quiet piano room. Jungkook stared at him. So what are you saying? Jimin's eyes flickered with something conflicted. I'm saying this changes everything. A long silence followed. Jungkook looked away for a moment before speaking again. Do you regret it? The question came out softer than he intended. Jimin's head snapped up. What? You heard me. Jimin stared at him in disbelief. You think I regret hearing you confess? Jungkook shrugged slightly. You sound like you do. Jimin suddenly walked closer, stopping only a step away. You're unbelievable. Jungkook raised an eyebrow. How? You confess something huge, Jimin said, his voice rising slightly. Then immediately assume I'm going to run away. You just spent 5 minutes explaining why I should. That's not what I said. Then explain it better. The room filled with tension again, thick enough to almost feel physical. Jimin looked at him for a long moment before speaking more quietly. I'm scared. Jungkook blinked. That word again. Scared of what? He asked. Jimin looked toward the window, where the distant city lights shimmered faintly. Of losing what we already have. Jungkook's voice softened. You think this would ruin it? I don't know, Jimin admitted. That's the problem. Jungkook studied him carefully. You said you felt something too. Jimin nodded slowly. I did. Did. Jimin gave him a sharp look. Don't twist my words. Then clarify them. Jimin ran a hand through his hair, frustration building again. You really want the truth? Yes. The truth is I've been trying not to think about it. Jungkook's chest tightened slightly. Why? Because every time I do, everything gets messy. How messy? Jimin laughed bitterly. Emotionally messy, logically messy, publicly messy. Jungkook stepped closer again. You're worried about people. I'm worried about consequences. Those are the same thing. Jimin shook his head. No, consequences are what happens after people talk. Jungkook leaned against the piano again, thinking. So you'd rather pretend nothing happened? Jimin looked down. I didn't say that. Then what do you want? The question lingered. Jimin looked up again slowly. What do you want? Jungkook answered without hesitation. You. The directness of the answer sent a quiet shock through the room. Jimin stared at him. You can't just say that like it's easy. It is easy. No, it is. Yes, it is. Jimin stepped even closer now, their faces barely a foot apart. You're seriously telling me you're ready to risk everything just because of a feeling? Jungkook's voice stayed calm. It's not just a feeling. Then what is it? Jungkook held his gaze. It's years of silence. The words hit Jimin harder than he expected. I kept it to myself, Jungkook continued quietly. I buried it, ignored it, wrote songs about it instead of saying it. Jimin swallowed. And now I'm done pretending. The conviction in Jungkook's voice made Jimin's heart race. You always do this, Jimin said. Do what? Act brave. Jungkook frowned. You think this is an act? Jimin hesitated. No. Then stop treating it like one. The tension between them felt electric now. Jimin's voice dropped. You know what the craziest part is? What? I'm not even shocked. Jungkook blinked. You're not. Jimin shook his head. No. Why not? Jimin smiled faintly. Because I think I've been waiting for this conversation for years. Jungkook's heart skipped. You have. Jimin nodded slowly. I just didn't expect it to happen at 3 in the morning next to a piano. Jungkook chuckled softly. Where else would it happen? Jimin laughed under his breath. That's actually a good point. The tension eased slightly again. But the emotional weight remained. Jimin looked at the piano. Play it again. Jungkook tilted his head. The song. Yes. You've heard it 3 times already. I want to hear it now that we both know the truth. Jungkook studied him for a moment. Then he sat down at the bench again. The melody began once more, but something about it felt different now. The notes carried a sense of release that hadn't existed before. Jimin closed his eyes as he listened. When the final chord faded, he spoke quietly. You know what's strange? What? It doesn't sound like longing anymore. Jungkook looked up. No. Jimin shook his head. It sounds like relief. Jungkook thought about that. Then he smiled softly. Maybe that's because the secret isn't a secret anymore. Jimin opened his eyes. Their gazes met again. And for the first time since the confession, neither of them looked away. The fourth night arrived with tension thick enough to choke. Jimin stormed into the hotel's piano room without knocking, rain dripping from his hair and dark blazer, a storm outside mirroring the one inside him. Jungkook was already there, sitting at the piano, fingers hovering above the keys as if he could summon courage through music alone. "You're late," Jungkook said, calm, almost teasing, but there was an edge tonight that neither of them could ignore. "I don't care about being late," Jimin snapped, voice sharp. "I care about you hiding things from me." Jungkook froze for a moment, and the familiar warmth that usually lit his eyes flickered with something unreadable. "Hiding things?" he asked carefully. "Yes," Jimin said, stepping closer, the tension radiating in waves. "All these years you've been writing songs, making music, starring off into space, acting like you're untouchable, but you've been keeping me in the dark." His voice cracked slightly, frustration spilling into anger. "Do you think that's fair? Do you think I'd just stay quiet forever?" Jungkook swallowed hard, the fingers that had been resting lightly on the piano keys tightening. I didn't know how to tell you. I thought if I wrote it, maybe the words wouldn't be necessary." Jimin laughed bitterly, a sound that hurt more than it should. "The words are necessary, Jungkook. Songs don't hug people back. Songs don't tell you when you're scared or when you're desperate. Only people do that." The room pulsed with anger, tension, and a raw, urgent need for truth. Jungkook's gaze dropped. "You really think it's that simple to just say it?" Jimin's eyes flashed. "It's simple if you care enough." His voice softened slightly, but the heat in it remained. "Do you care, or is this just some romantic fantasy you've been hiding behind music?" Jungkook's chest heaved. "You think I'm pretending?" "I don't know what to think anymore," Jimin admitted, voice dropping. "All I know is that I can't ignore this, not after last night." A pause fell between them, heavier than any storm outside. The silence pressed on Jungkook, and when he finally spoke, it was almost a whisper. "I'm scared too, Hyung." Jimin's sharp features softened. "Scared of what?" "Of losing you," Jungkook admitted. "Of saying something wrong, of ruining everything we've had." His hands hovered over the piano keys again, unconsciously playing a soft, trembling chord. "I've wanted to tell you for so long, but every time I tried, I froze. I couldn't risk this." Jimin's gaze softened, but the tension remained, tangled with desire and fear. "Risk what, Jungkook? Risk us?" "Yes," he whispered, almost inaudibly. "I couldn't, not if it meant losing you completely." The words lingered like smoke in the room, heavy and intimate. Jimin stepped closer, closing the space between them. "Do you know what it feels like to sit there and hear someone write a song about you and not asterisk know it's about you?" His voice dropped to a trembling whisper. "Do you know how it feels to realize that every note, every lyric, every pause was you reaching for me, but never saying it?" Jungkook's eyes widened. "I didn't think you noticed." "I noticed everything," Jimin said, heat building, a mixture of anger, frustration, and longing swirling through him. "Do you know how dangerous that is? How hard it is to pretend nothing's happening when I've been feeling the same way too?" Jungkook's chest tightened, his pulse quickening. "You felt the same way?" Jimin nodded, voice trembling now. "Yeah, and I've been trying not to think about it, trying not to hope, because I knew it was impossible. I didn't want to hurt myself. Or you. But then you finally admit it, and suddenly I don't know how to breathe anymore." The younger man's hands left the keys completely. He leaned closer, every inch a mixture of fear and desire. "Hyung." Jimin's breath hitched. "Don't, Jungkook." "Don't what?" His voice was barely audible. "Don't feel the same way." "Yes," Jimin whispered, voice breaking. "Because if I do, if I let myself, I'll lose control." "You've already lost control," Jungkook said softly, and then without thinking he closed the distance, brushing a strand of wet hair from Jimin's face. Their eyes locked, the tension unbearable, every heartbeat echoing in the small piano room. Jimin's hand went to Jungkook's chest, pressing lightly, feeling the frantic pulse beneath. Do you know what happens when we do this? Everything changes, Jungkook admitted, his voice trembling as much as his hands. But I don't care anymore. I can't wait any longer. I can't. Before he could finish, Jimin pressed forward, their lips colliding in a mix of urgency and desperation, anger and longing, frustration and release. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't careful. It was the culmination of years of unspoken words, hidden glances, and restrained emotion. They pulled back for a fraction of a second, breathing heavily, foreheads touching. "Are you insane?" Jimin gasped. "I think we've both been insane for a long time," Jungkook said, a small, breathless laugh escaping. "Insane," Jimin echoed, shaking his head, but a faint smile tugged at his lips. "Dangerously insane." "And it feels right," Jungkook whispered. Jimin's eyes searched his, fierce and vulnerable all at once. "It's going to be messy," he said. "I don't care," Jungkook said firmly, taking Jimin's hand and holding it tight. "Let it be messy." The piano sat silent, a witness to the storm inside them. Their breaths mingled, their hearts racing in tandem. Outside, the city carried on as if nothing had changed. But inside, in the quiet piano room, everything had changed. The danger, the secrecy, the fear, all of it dissolved in that single, heated moment. And for the first time, neither of them wanted to go back. Jimin leaned closer again, voice low, almost a growl. "Then we see where this goes, Jungkook. No holding back, no pretending, no more secrets." Jungkook's fingers brushed Jimin's cheek, thumb grazing softly. "No more pretending." And in the quiet hotel room, the world shrank until it was just the two of them, tangled in desire, fear, and confession, every heartbeat echoing the words they could now finally speak aloud. The storm outside had ended, but the storm between them was only beginning. The fifth night began with fire, not music. Jimin stormed into the hotel room before Jungkook had even finished setting down his music sheets. His blazer was damp from the rain, but his eyes burned hotter than any storm outside. Jungkook looked up from the piano bench, the dim light catching his sharp features, and for a moment, neither spoke. "I can't believe you," Jimin snapped, voice tight. "After everything, you just left me in suspense all these years." Jungkook's fingers twitched over the keys. "I didn't leave you in suspense. I was waiting for the right moment." "The right moment?" Jimin's hands shot out, gripping the back of a chair. "You mean the perfect time you decided asterisk, while I was sitting there feeling everything and knowing nothing?" Jungkook's chest tightened. "Hyung." "No, you don't get to say that." Jimin cut him off, voice breaking now, a mix of anger and raw vulnerability. "You can't just—" The words faltered, swallowed by the tension in the room. "You can't just write a song about someone for years, hide it behind music, and then confess at 3 in the morning like it's casual." Jimin's voice shook, and his eyes glistened with unshed tears. "Do you know what that does to a person?" "I do," Jungkook said, standing now, the chair scraping the wooden floor. "I know exactly what it does. I've felt it too. Every damn day, Hyung. You think it was easy for me to hide it. You think it didn't tear me apart." Jimin's hands trembled, jaw tight. "Then why didn't you ever just say it?" "Because I was terrified," Jungkook admitted, voice dropping. "Terrified you wouldn't feel the same. Terrified you, laugh or walk away, or worse, that it would destroy us." Jimin froze, chest heaving. "Destroy us?" His voice softened despite himself. "You think this could destroy us?" "I don't know," Jungkook whispered, and for the first time the walls around him cracked. "All I know is that I can't lie anymore. I can't hide, not from you, not from myself." The silence fell heavy, punctuated only by the faint hum of the city outside. Rain dripped from the broken clouds onto the windows, the sound echoing like a heartbeat. "You're serious," Jimin said finally, voice low, a mixture of disbelief and wonder. "Yes." "And you're ready for this?" Jimin took a step closer, the heat between them thick enough to burn. "For all the complications, For all the people who will judge, all the rumors, all the chaos. Jungkook's eyes darkened, a flicker of determination in their depths. I'm ready if it's with you. Jimin's breath caught, and in a sudden motion, he grabbed Jungkook by the shoulders, pulling him close until their foreheads touched. Do you know how insane this is? Jungkook smiled faintly, thumb brushing along Jimin's jaw. I think we've both been insane for a long time. The air between them was electric, every inch charged with years of suppressed longing, every heartbeat a drum of desire. Jimin's hand slid down, brushing against Jungkook's side, fingers trembling. You don't understand, Jimin murmured, voice low, almost a growl. I've imagined this every night, every damn night. But now that it's real, it's too intense, too dangerous. Jungkook pressed closer, lips hovering near Jimin's ear. I want dangerous. Jimin shivered, chest tight. Do you really? I've never wanted anything more, Jungkook whispered. Not a song, not a moment, not anyone else. Jimin's hands gripped his shirt, fingers digging in lightly. Then show me you mean it, all of it, no more games. Jungkook's hand slid down, tangling in Jimin's hair, pulling him closer until there was no space left. The kiss was sudden, hungry, a desperate collision of years of restraint and unspoken truth. Their breaths mingled, hearts pounding, the tension exploding into fire. Jimin's body pressed against Jungkook, shivering with a mixture of heat and fear. God, you've been holding back for years, he whispered between breaths. Do you know what you've done to me? Jungkook smiled against his lips, voice rough with emotion. Yes, and I plan to make up for every second I waited. The room seemed to shrink around them, the piano now just a silent witness to their chaos. Fingers tangled, lips collided, and the storm outside mirrored the storm inside. Every heartbeat, every gasp, every whispered confession built into a crescendo of desire and release, a collision of fear and passion that left them both trembling. Jimin pulled back slightly, forehead resting against Jungkook's shoulder, breath ragged. You're reckless, he murmured. And you love it, Jungkook whispered back, voice low and teasing but full of heat. I hate that I do, Jimin admitted, shivering, hands gripping him tighter. But I can't help it. The silence that followed was not empty. It was charged, full of unspoken promises, dangerous possibilities, and the thrilling uncertainty of a path neither of them could predict. Outside, the hotel hummed quietly, indifferent. Inside, Jungkook and Jimin clung to each other, every touch, every gasp, every heartbeat a secret world only they could inhabit. And in that moment, neither wanted to go back. The fire between them had been ignited, fierce and uncontrollable, and they both knew there was no pretending anymore. The night stretched on, heavy, hot and unrelenting, carrying with it the thrill of forbidden truths and the intoxicating danger of finally giving in. The sixth night started with the faint hum of tension in the hotel corridor, a subtle reminder that the world outside still existed, but inside, the piano room had become its own universe. Jungkook was already there, sitting on the edge of the piano bench, fingers idly brushing the keys without playing a note. The soft glow of the lamp painted his features in gold, highlighting the sharp line of his jaw and the intensity in his eyes. Jimin stepped inside silently, but the door creaked under his hand. Jungkook's head shot up, and for a split second there was a flicker of worry in his gaze. Don't sneak up on me like that, Jungkook said, though the edge in his voice was tempered by a quiet smile. Jimin's lips curled into a smirk, though his chest still pounded. I could say the same to you, he replied, stepping closer. What are you doing just sitting here like it's nothing? I'm thinking, Jungkook said simply, voice low. About last night, about us. Us? Jimin repeated, tilting his head. His eyes darkened with desire and confusion. You mean the firestorm you lit in here? That firestorm, Jungkook said, leaning back slightly, isn't over, not for me. And I don't think it should be over for you either. Jimin's gaze flickered, a mixture of heat and vulnerability crossing his face. You realize what you're saying? He asked, voice dropping. Every word, every action, it's dangerous. Jungkook stood slowly, closing the small space between them. I don't care, he said firmly, hands brushing against Jimin's arms. I've spent years pretending to care about the risk. I don't anymore. Jimin swallowed, chest tightening. You're reckless. And you love reckless, Jungkook said softly, leaning his forehead against Jimin's. Their breaths mingled. I know you do. I've seen it in the way you look at me when you think I'm not noticing. Jimin's pulse raced. You've been watching me all these years. Every moment I could, Jungkook whispered, voice rough with confession. Every glance, every subtle gesture, every time you thought I didn't see you, I saw you. Jimin's hands found Jungkook's chest, fingers pressing against him lightly, trembling. Then why? Why what? Jungkook's voice dropped to a whisper. Why wait so long? Jimin demanded, frustration and desire lacing every word. Why make me feel like I'm imagining things when I was? Jungkook's lips brushed against Jimin's temple, soft but intentional. Because I was scared, he admitted. Scared that if I confessed, it would change everything, and I couldn't risk losing you. You didn't risk losing me, Jimin said sharply. You risked losing us both because you were too afraid to speak. The words hit Jungkook like a jolt, but he didn't pull away. Maybe, he said quietly, but now I'm done being afraid, done hiding. Jimin's body shivered with tension, the room shrinking until it was only the two of them. Done hiding, really? He asked, voice trembling. Yes, Jungkook said firmly, closing the distance between them. I'm done hiding, and I want you, all of you. No walls, no pretenses, nothing between us anymore. Jimin's breath hitched, heat radiating from him in waves. You don't know what you're saying, he whispered, half command, half plea. I do, Jungkook said, voice low, hot. And I'm willing to deal with every consequence, every word, every judgment, every complication if it's with you. Jimin's fingers tangled in Jungkook's hair, pulling him closer, lips brushing against his ear. You have no idea how dangerous this is, he murmured, voice hoarse. How high the stakes are. I do, Jungkook replied, lips trailing down Jimin's neck. And I don't care. The tension exploded into heat. They collided, lips locking in a fierce, desperate kiss that carried years of suppressed longing. Hands roamed, pulses raced, and every touch was a mixture of fire and restraint breaking. Jimin pressed against Jungkook, breathless, voice catching. You've been holding back for so long, asterisk, he whispered. I know, Jungkook admitted against his lips, teeth grazing his ear. And I'm never holding back again. Jimin's chest rose and fell rapidly, fingers gripping Jungkook's shirt. Do you understand what you're doing to me? Yes, Jungkook said softly, brushing a hand down Jimin's spine. And I want to see just how far we can go. The piano stood silently behind them, its black lacquer reflecting their shadows in the warm lamplight. But neither of them noticed. Neither cared. The room had become a storm of heat, desire, and confession, every inch of space between them charged with longing. Jimin pulled back slightly, voice low, trembling yet daring. What if this destroys us? Jungkook's fingers brushed his cheek tenderly. Then we face it together, but I won't let fear win anymore, not with you. And in that small, dimly lit piano room with the city quiet below them, they both realized that the world outside could wait. Danger, judgment, consequences, all of it could wait. Because tonight, every heartbeat, every whispered word, every heated touch was theirs alone. Their storm had only just begun, and neither was willing to turn back. The seventh night arrived like a challenge, dark and electric, wrapping the hotel in a tense hush that made every footstep sound dangerously loud. Jungkook was already in the piano room when Jimin appeared, rain-slicked hair clinging to his forehead, eyes wide and alive with stormy emotion. The faint hum of the city below could not compete with the pulse that throbbed between them. You're here again, Jungkook said, voice low but sharp, a tremor betraying his excitement. Do you ever sleep? Jimin didn't answer immediately. Instead, he crossed the room, his eyes scanning the piano before settling on Jungkook. "Sleep," he repeated slowly. "Why would I sleep when you've been torturing me with silence for years?" His tone was biting, teasing, but the heat behind it was undeniable. "I wasn't torturing you," Jungkook countered, though his voice softened, revealing the truth underneath. "I was scared. You know I'm scared of ruining everything, of losing you." "Ruining everything." Jimin's hands clenched at his sides. "You've been holding back for years. You think you can just sit there, play your cryptic songs, and drop confessions at 3 in the morning like it's some casual game. You've been pulling me into this emotional hurricane without warning." Jungkook's jaw tightened, his chest rising and falling quickly. "It wasn't a game. It was me trying to survive my own feelings without losing you. Every day, every moment I was thinking about you, about us, but I didn't know how to say it without risking." He trailed off, gaze dropping. "Risking what?" Jimin pressed, stepping closer until the air between them was charged, almost painful in its intensity. "You were risking everything Jungkook, and now—" His voice softened slightly, almost pleading. "Now we're standing here and I don't know if I'm ready for the fallout." Jungkook's eyes lifted, blazing with a mixture of fear, longing, and desire. "Then let me show you. Let me prove that it's worth it." Jimin exhaled sharply, a shiver running through him. "And what if it is?" "Then we face it together," Jungkook said, taking a step closer, his hand brushing against Jimin's cheek. The heat of his palm made Jimin shiver involuntarily. "But I won't hide anymore. Not from you, not from myself." Jimin's breath hitched, chest rising rapidly. "You have no idea how reckless this is," he murmured, fingers trembling as they brushed against Jungkook's chest. "We're playing with fire and I'm scared we'll burn." "Then let's burn," Jungkook whispered, leaning closer. "Let's see how high the flames can go." The tension exploded between them, sudden and intense. Jungkook pressed forward, capturing Jimin's lips in a kiss that was fierce, hungry, and desperate. Jimin responded immediately, hands tangling in Jungkook's hair, pulling him closer, their bodies pressed together with a mix of frustration, longing, and unspoken confessions. They pulled back for a moment, foreheads touching, breaths mingling. Jimin's voice was low and trembling. "God, you've been holding back for so long, asterisk. Do you have any idea what you've done to me?" "Yes," Jungkook whispered against his lips, "and I'm going to make up for every second I waited." Jimin shivered, hands sliding down Jungkook's back, pulling him closer still. "You're reckless, and I hate that I love it." "I don't want you to hate it," Jungkook said, voice rough, eyes dark. "I want you to feel it, all of it. Every danger, every risk, every consequence together." Jimin's chest rose and fell rapidly, heat pooling between them. "And what about everyone else? The whispers, the judgment, the chaos?" Jungkook smiled faintly, lips brushing along Jimin's jaw. "Let them talk. Let the world worry. Tonight it's just us. The rest can wait." The room felt alive, charged with desire and emotion. The piano sat behind them, silent witness to their storm, black lacquer reflecting the heated shadows of their bodies pressed together. Each touch, each whispered word, each gasp carried years of suppressed longing, fear, and the thrill of finally giving in. Jimin pressed a hand against Jungkook's chest, eyes locking with his. "Then we do this, right? No more pretending, no more holding back." Jungkook's hands cupped Jimin's face, thumbs brushing over his cheekbones. "No more holding back, no more walls, no more secrets." They collided again, lips meeting in a fiery kiss that carried both confession and desperation. Fingers tangled, hearts racing, bodies pressed together, every inch of space between them charged with heat, tension, and forbidden desire. When they finally broke apart, gasping, foreheads pressed together, Jimin whispered, This could destroy everything." "Or it could make us unstoppable," Jungkook replied, voice low, dark, and certain. "And I'm ready to find out." The city outside remained indifferent, but inside the piano room, every heartbeat, every touch, every whispered word was a declaration. The storm had begun, unrelenting, fierce, and dangerous, and neither of them wanted it to end. The night stretched on, a private universe of fire, desire, confession, and reckless passion. Every glance, every brush of skin, every heated word was a promise. They were done hiding, done pretending, done fearing the world. They had chosen each other, and nothing could undo that. Even as the rain started again, gentle now, tapping against the window like a slow drum, the intensity between them only deepened. The piano remained silent, but its black surface reflected the storm of their emotions, the chaos, the thrill, the danger, and the undeniable truth of what they had finally allowed themselves to feel. The night was theirs, but the consequences of their passion loomed like shadows outside the golden circle of light in the piano room. And both of them knew that, once the sun rose, nothing would ever be the same. The eighth night arrived like a powder keg, heavy with unspoken tension. Jungkook was sitting at the piano again, fingers idly tracing keys without producing a note. The dim lamp cast elongated shadows across the room, turning the polished black surface of the piano into a mirror of the storm in his chest. He hadn't moved when Jimin entered, but the way Jimin's eyes locked on him told him everything. "You didn't wait," Jimin said immediately, voice sharp, laced with heat. "You couldn't wait, could you?" "I didn't think I could," Jungkook admitted quietly, looking up. His eyes were dark, intense, impossibly raw. "After last night I can't, not anymore." Jimin's lips curved, half smile, half snarl. "Not anymore." His steps were slow, deliberate, closing the small space between them. "Do you understand what you're saying, Jungkook? Every word, every touch, every look, it's a wildfire. You don't get to just light it and then walk away." "I don't want to walk away," Jungkook whispered, rising from the bench. "I want it all. I want you. Every moment, every heartbeat, every second we've been denying ourselves." Jimin's breath hitched. "You've been asterisk playing with me," he said, voice low but shaking. "All this time. The music, the glances, the confessions at 3 in the morning, it's dangerous. And I can't pretend I'm not addicted to it." "You don't have to pretend," Jungkook said, closing the distance. His hand brushed against Jimin's cheek, thumb grazing softly. "I see it. I've seen it all along. Every little hesitation, every stolen look, you're as tangled up in this as I am." Jimin swallowed, chest tightening. "Do you even know what you're doing to me?" "Yes," Jungkook breathed, leaning closer, eyes darkening. "And I don't care. I've spent years holding back, hiding, pretending this could wait. I can't wait anymore. I can't." Jimin's hand slid into Jungkook, gripping his arms tightly. "Do you realize how dangerous this is? How fast this could spiral?" "Then let it spiral," Jungkook said, voice low, intense. "Let it consume us if it has to. I want it all, the fire, the chaos, the danger, everything with you." The words hit Jimin like a shockwave. His heart hammered, adrenaline coursing through him. "Everything? You really mean that?" "Yes," Jungkook said firmly, thumb brushing along Jimin's jaw, his lips brushing near his ear. "No reservations, no walls, no holding back." Jimin shivered at the heat in Jungkook's voice, chest rising and falling rapidly. "You're insane," he whispered, pressing closer. "Do you know that?" "And you love it," Jungkook replied softly, lips trailing down Jimin's neck, teeth grazing his skin. "I've seen it. Every glance, every touch, every moment you pretend you're calm. I see it, Hyung. You can't hide it from me." "You're reckless," Jimin breathed, fingers tangling in Jungkook's hair, pulling him closer. "Do you even understand what's at stake?" "I do," Jungkook murmured, capturing his lips in a fierce, desperate kiss. "And I don't care, not anymore." Jimin gasped, fingers pressing into Jungkook's back as the kiss deepened, hunger and passion colliding. "You've held back for years and now you just explode," he whispered, voice trembling. "Do you know what you've done to me?" "Yes," Jungkook said against his lips, voice raw. "And I want to see how far we can go." Their bodies pressed together, hearts racing, breaths mingling in the dimly lit room. Every touch, every whispered word, every heated look was a confession, a rebellion against the years of denial. Jimin's hands roamed over Jungkook's chest, arms sliding around him, pulling him impossibly close. "You're reckless," Jimin murmured again, voice low, almost broken with need. "And I can't resist you." "I don't want you to resist," Jungkook replied, voice thick, lips brushing along Jimin's collarbone. "I want you to surrender every piece of you, no holding back, Hyung." Jimin's chest rose sharply, breath trembling. "You don't know what you're unleashing," he whispered, a mix of fear and longing. "Once we start, there's no going back." "Then let's burn it all down," Jungkook whispered, teeth grazing the sensitive skin at Jimin's neck, fingers threading into his hair. "Everything we've denied, everything we've wanted, it ends tonight." The tension, the heat, the unspoken confessions exploded in a storm of need. Kisses, touches, whispered names and gasps filled the room. Every inch of space between them disappeared, replaced by a fire they could no longer control. The piano behind them was forgotten, a silent witness to the chaos of their bodies pressed together, the fever of years finally unleashed. Jimin gasped, pressing closer, teeth grazing Jungkook's shoulder. "You're insane," he whispered between ragged breaths. "And you love it," Jungkook murmured back, voice rough, dark and claiming. "Every bit of it." They held each other in the golden lamplight, bodies trembling, hearts racing, knowing that once they stepped out of this room, nothing would ever be the same. Every secret, every risk, every stolen longing had culminated in this heated night, and neither of them wanted to stop. Outside, the city slept under a blanket of lights, but inside the piano room they had created their own world, fiery, dangerous, uncontrollable, and they both knew that the consequences, whatever they might be, could wait. Because tonight they were untouchable, tonight they were infinite. The ninth night was different. It carried a tension that pulsed like electricity through the hotel corridors before Jimin even reached the piano room. He paused outside the door, hand hovering over the handle, heart racing as if it already knew the storm waiting inside. When he opened it, Jungkook was sitting at the piano again, but this time his posture was rigid, almost guarded, and the air between them crackled with unspoken emotions. "You're late," Jungkook said, voice low, almost accusing. "I'm right on time," Jimin replied, stepping in, rain still dripping from his hair. "Are we really going to pretend everything from last night didn't happen?" Jungkook's fingers brushed a key lightly, a single note hanging in the silence like a question. "I'm not pretending," he said carefully, eyes scanning Jimin's face. "But you have to understand, once we step into this, everything changes." "Everything changes," Jimin's voice dropped, half laughing, half frustrated. "You think I don't know that? I feel it every second we're near each other." He stepped closer, voice trembling. "Do you know what it does to me, sitting there, knowing you've wanted this for years and now it's real?" Jungkook's hand stilled, his gaze darkening. "Then tell me what it does to you." Jimin's eyes flickered, a mixture of longing and frustration. "It drives me insane," he admitted. "Every look, every touch, every single moment, it's unbearable. And yet I can't stop wanting more. You've been holding me in this tension, this heat for years, and now you finally give me a taste, and I don't know if I can survive it." Jungkook swallowed hard, stepping closer until there was barely space between them. "You don't have to survive it," he murmured, lips brushing near Jimin's ear. "You just have to feel it. Let it consume you. Let it overwhelm you. I've wanted this, all of this with you for so long." Jimin shivered, breath catching as his hand slid into Jungkook, fingers trembling. "Do you realize how dangerous this is? How everything could spiral out of control?" "I do," Jungkook said, voice low, deliberate and dark. "And I don't care, I want you, every part of you. No boundaries, no hesitation, no regrets. I've waited too long to be careful." Jimin's chest heaved, lips parted, heart hammering. "You're reckless," he whispered. "And I can't resist you. Every time I think I can, you take everything I have." "I don't want you to resist," Jungkook said, stepping closer, lips capturing Jimin's in a kiss that was sudden, fierce, and consuming. "I want you to surrender. Let yourself fall. Let me fall with you." Jimin gasped into the kiss, arms wrapping around Jungkook's neck, pulling him closer. God, you've been holding back for years, he whispered, voice ragged. Do you know what you've done to me? Yes, Jungkook breathed, teeth grazing Jimin's ear. And I want to see how far we can go. I want every second of it. Jimin's hand slid down Jungkook's back, pulling him impossibly close, chest pressing against chest, every heartbeat synchronized in their storm. You're insane, he murmured, shivering, lips brushing against Jungkook's jaw. And I love that you are. And you love that you can't resist me, Jungkook said, lips brushing Jimin's temple. Every glance, every hesitation, every moment you try to fight it, I see it. I've seen it all along. Jimin's eyes darkened with desire and frustration. You're dangerous, he whispered, voice trembling. Do you even know that? I do, Jungkook admitted, capturing his lips again, tongue tracing the outline of need and heat. And I want it, all of it. Every risk, every danger, every consequence, I want it with you. Their bodies collided again, the piano forgotten behind them as they pressed together, every inch of space consumed by desire, every gasp and whispered name a confession. Hands roamed, lips met, breaths mingled, and the room seemed to shrink until it was only the two of them, lost in fire, chaos, and longing that had been years in the making. Jimin pulled back slightly, forehead against Jungkook's shoulder, voice low and trembling. This could destroy everything, he whispered. Or it could make us unstoppable, Jungkook murmured, teeth grazing his neck, fingers threading into his hair. And I'm ready to find out. Outside, the city slept under a blanket of indifferent lights, but inside the piano room, every heartbeat, every whispered word, every desperate touch was a declaration. They had crossed the line of hesitation, burned the walls of restraint, and surrendered to the fire they had tried to deny for years. The night stretched on, heavy with passion, danger, and confessions, and both of them knew with a clarity that burned that nothing would ever be the same again. The storm they had created was theirs, unrelenting, consuming, and absolutely undeniable. And neither of them wanted it to end. The 10th night began with an almost unbearable tension, like the air itself was charged and waiting for them to ignite it. Jungkook sat at the piano, fingers tracing the keys lightly, not playing, his jaw tight and his eyes dark. The lamp cast golden streaks across his sharp features, highlighting the fire that had been building for years and that now threatened to consume them both. Jimin stepped into the room, drenched from the rain that had begun again, hair plastered to his forehead. His eyes were wide, intense, and alive with that same storm Jungkook had come to recognize in every glance. You've been waiting, Jimin said, voice low, almost dangerous. Waiting for what? For me to crumble, for you to finally make your move. Jungkook's lips twitched in the faintest smirk. I've been waiting for honesty, he admitted, fingers brushing lightly across the keys, producing a soft, hesitant note. Not just from me, from you. Jimin took a step closer, the heat between them so thick it seemed to crackle. Honesty? You think I can just lay it all out after years of pretending, of denying, after watching you write songs about me and hide behind every word, every melody? I don't expect it to be easy, Jungkook said, standing slowly, the piano forgotten for a moment. I just need it. I need to know that you feel it too, that this, us, it's not just a fevered dream I've been living alone. Jimin's hands trembled slightly, brushing against his sides as he stepped closer. Do you know how much you've tortured me? His voice cracked, a mix of heat and desperation. Every glance, every touch, every damn note, it's like a tease I couldn't escape. And now that it's real, I can't even think straight. Jungkook's fingers brushed a strand of wet hair from Jimin's face, thumb tracing his jaw slowly. Then let me help, he whispered, voice low, intimate. Let me show you that what we have is real, that it's worth every risk, every danger, every storm we've been afraid of. Jimin's chest rose sharply. Do you understand what you're asking? He said, voice hoarse, eyes dark with longing. You want all of me, every part, and once we step into this, there's no turning back. I know, Jungkook murmured, stepping closer, hands sliding to Jimin's waist. And I don't want to turn back. I've spent years hiding, pretending, denying. Not anymore. I want it all. You, me, everything. Jimin shivered, lips parting as he pressed closer, fingers threading into Jungkook's hair. You're insane, he whispered, voice trembling, and I can't resist you. I've tried, I really have. And I've seen every hesitation, every flicker of longing, Jungkook said softly, lips grazing Jimin's ear. I've watched you fight it and I've loved it. Loved every second of it because I knew that eventually we'd burn, together. Jimin's hands pressed against Jungkook's chest, feeling the rapid pulse beneath. You've been holding back for so long, he whispered, voice trembling. Do you know what that's done to me? Yes, Jungkook said, voice low, rough with emotion. And I want to see how far this goes. I want it all, the fire, the chaos, the danger, the passion. I want every second with you. Their bodies collided, lips locking in a desperate, fiery kiss that had years of longing, fear, and suppressed desire packed into every movement. Jimin's arms wrapped around Jungkook, pulling him impossibly close, shivering with need and frustration. You're reckless, he whispered against Jungkook's lips. And I love it. I can't stop wanting you. And I don't want you to stop, Jungkook murmured, teeth grazing the sensitive skin at Jimin's neck, hands sliding along his back. Every risk, every danger, every consequence, it doesn't matter. I want you, all of you. No walls, no hesitation, no regrets. The room seemed to shrink around them, the piano behind them a silent witness to the storm of their desire. Every touch, every gasp, every whispered name carried the weight of years of restraint finally breaking. Jimin pressed closer, lips brushing Jungkook's jaw, shivering with the heat between them. You don't know what you're unleashing, he whispered, voice low and raw. I do, Jungkook admitted, pressing his forehead against Jimin, breath mingling. And I want it. I've wanted this for years. I'm done hiding, done pretending, done fearing. The kiss deepened again, urgent and consuming, every movement a confession, every heartbeat a declaration. Hands roamed, lips met, bodies pressed together, and the tension that had built over years finally exploded into fire. Jimin gasped, pressing his body impossibly close, shivering. You've destroyed me, he whispered, breathless. And I'll rebuild you, Jungkook said, voice low, claiming. Piece by piece, heart by heart, as long as it's with me. Outside, the city lights twinkled faintly, indifferent, but inside the piano room the world had shrunk to just them. The fire, the chaos, the danger, the passion, and neither of them wanted it to end. The night stretched on, unrelenting, every heartbeat, every touch, every whispered word a promise. No more hiding, no more pretending, no more fear. They had chosen each other and nothing, no consequence, no judgment, no chaos could take that away. In that golden lamplight with shadows dancing on the piano's glossy black surface, they found their truth, reckless and consuming, and for the first time in years both of them breathed freely, knowing the storm was theirs and theirs alone. The final night came quietly, deceptively gentle, with a silver moon spilling across the polished floor of the piano room. Jungkook and Jimin sat side by side on the bench, shoulders touching, fingers intertwined over the piano keys. The storm outside had passed, leaving only the soft hum of the city beneath them. But the fire between them had not dimmed. It burned steadier now, deeper, no longer desperate, only real. Jimin leaned his head on Jungkook's shoulder, voice soft and unguarded. We survived it, didn't we? Jungkook's thumb traced lazy circles over Jimin's hand. We did. We survived the chaos, the fear, the years of silence, and we finally found each other. You could have ruined everything, Jimin murmured, tilting his head to meet Jungkook's gaze. But somehow you didn't. I knew you were worth it, Jungkook said simply, lips brushing against Jimin's temple. Every risk, every storm, every sleepless night, all of it was worth you. Jimin smiled faintly, warmth radiating through him. It still scares me, he admitted, voice low, a whisper of vulnerability. But I'm ready, ready to face whatever comes next with you. Jungkook's eyes softened, dark intensity melting into quiet devotion. "We face it together," he said, leaning in to press a gentle, lingering kiss to Jimin's lips. "No secrets, no pretending, no fears we can't share, just us. Always." They sat there, hands clasped, foreheads touching, letting the calm after the storm settle over them. The piano was silent now, a witness to everything: the confessions, the fire, the chaos, the passion, and finally, the truth. And in that quiet, golden light, Jungkook and Jimin knew they had reached the moment they had waited for their entire lives. A place where longing had been fulfilled, fears had been faced, and love, messy, dangerous, impossible love, had finally found home. Outside, the world continued on, indifferent, but inside the piano room they had everything. Every heartbeat, every breath, every touch was theirs, and it was enough. No more storms, no more hiding, only them together in the quiet aftermath of years of fire, and for the first time both of them felt complete. The story ended not with chaos or confession, but with the steady, unwavering certainty of love finally realized.